My name is Olivia Morris. I'm part of Group C. We've chosen to talk about the Populist Party, the Progressives, and then the New Deal. I personally did the Populist Party, and then my words on the Wordle are in gray. I have agrarian populism, anti-Semitism, hard versus soft, and then conspiracy-driven listed. Agrarian populism is the first one that I really thought of. It is kind of another name for populism at the time that we were reading about. And it's really just called agrarian populism because even after the Populist Party opened up their demographic to more workers and laborers, they were still based on agricultural, like the agricultural business and ideals. Hofstadter mentions at one point in his book, The Age of Reform from Bryan to FDR, that the populists looked backwards with longing to the lost agrarian Eden, which really just means that they felt that capitalism was really just hurting them and hurting their lifestyle. So part of what led them to that idea is the idea of hard versus soft. The hard side was their interest in potentially becoming commercial businessmen. And then the soft side was that they felt victimized by capitalism. In the end, the soft side did win out, and that's really what led them to conspiracies and anti-Semitism. But there was a battle there between, really a personal battle in them, that they didn't know if they wanted to be commercial businessmen or just stay with the agrarian lifestyle. So after the soft side won, a lot of the conspiracies were really just on how capitalism was ruining their life and how they were victimized and that they had been mistreated and that nobody really, or that the other parties just didn't understand them, basically. So part of the main idea of the Populist Party is that it's the people's party and that the party cares about what the people want and it's not commercialized or capitalist. In this, that's why it's more about farmers and more about the agriculture and agrarian lifestyle. So, yeah, and when the populists started to, I guess, fade, that's when the progressives came in. And then after the progressives was the New Deal. So in the rest of this presentation, we're going to go over, my partners are going to go over the progressives and the New Deal and just how it transitioned. So transitioning from populist to progressives was really just that the progressives had more support.
Okay, so my name is Emma, and I did the progressive category here. So leading into from what Olivia was saying, the progressives were a lot more successful due to having a lot more support and were a bigger party just in general, so they were able to get a lot more done. So in my bubbles are down underneath the progressive. the progressive area. So I have things like the middle class, political reform, fear of corruption and authority. So just going through all of these. The progressives usually made up of the middle class, which were the laboring class. They felt that they weren't getting the rights that they deserved in their urban living conditions. So, for example, they felt that big business organization and corruption were kind of plaguing America in general, and felt that they weren't getting the proper care for a society that they could be getting. So the progressive movement was a political and economic reform that they called. Theodore Roosevelt was one of the main people in this movement that was really able to successfully move the progressives in the direction that they wanted to go. He really hit points on conservation and trust busting, so that bigger corporations could not exploit their workers, as we could say. Big business organization and corporation were trying to make as much profit as they possibly could in order to be more successful and kind of take over American industrialization. So they had their workers in poor conditions with little wages, and just it wasn't a ordered system that everyone could get on top of. So the progressives really wanted to focus on organizing themselves and having a strong democracy so that they could all work together to form laws and rights and amendments that everyone could agree on. So the progressives were able to be a lot more successful than the populists because they were a bigger group, and they also were seeking the government for help and Theodore Roosevelt for help to get them on the track that they wished to be on. So they were more focused on their urban living situations, but they still wanted to stick to their traditional ideals that that America was once founded on. So it was really taking what the populists had in mind and really just running with it, and focusing more on just the industrial community and making it better. So like I said, that was usually the middle class. It was usually immigrants, and what started off as that social reform for better conditions immediately turned into a political and economic one. They were able to set wages, set working schedules. They were able to put in place child protection laws for working conditions, and help with women's suffrage. And so Theodore Roosevelt and the progressives were really able to finally just like move in the right direction in which they wanted to go. So the progressives really were able to start a new reform, just really able to move with their ideals, and were pretty successful at it. So moving from the progressives after the war, we move into the New Deal. And
the New Deal was a series of programs and projects implemented by Franklin Roosevelt during the Great Depression. The New Deal created programs such as Social Security and the FDIC that would bring financial security to the American people. The New Deal also created programs that brought more jobs to the nation, as well as many other things. The main goal of the New Deal were the 3 R's, which stood for relief, recovery, and reform. President Roosevelt believed that the 3 R's would bring economic safety to the nation. According to Richard Hofstadter in his book, The Age of Reform, the New Dealers shared with the progressives a far greater willingness than had been seen in previous American history to make use of machinery of government to meet the needs of the people and supplement the workings of the national economy. Both the progressives and the New Dealers fought for government intervention to create equal opportunity for all American citizens. Another quote from Hofstadter is that the progressives had their plutocrats and the New Dealers had their economic royalists. Both groups felt that they were being taken advantage of by another group in the nation because the other group had more power due to their wealth. And what I mean by that is, for an example, the economic royalists had great influence in the economy because of their wealth and their power. The difference between the progressives and the New Dealers was that the central problem was different. Since the whole nation was suffering through this depression, FDR was pushed to fix the problem. This is the first time a president was given this responsibility. This caused the government to intervene with the economy. Since this nation was founded on an ideal of being free from government control, this caused many critics of what President Roosevelt was doing with the New Deal. Some even began to fear that FDR was a communist. Although the New Deal did not pull the nation out of the Depression alone, it showed the nation what could happen when too much government control is intervened with the economy. The New Deal also brought programs that are still used today, like Social Security and the FDIC.
So that will wrap up Olivia, mine, and Kailey's presentation over reform.